intro song is like not too loud. I'm trying to turn it down.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining an emergency episode of League One on the Rocks. My name is Rich. You can find me on Twitter at I'm Rich, but I'm not. Joined as always by Brian. You can find him on Twitter at Mediocre Ace. And we are also joined by Walking 90s Chip. You can find him on Twitter at Chip the Rippa. How are we doing, everybody?
Doing good. A little scared about what's going on in the league. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
do like this time for the emergency podcast better than Friday afternoon when we were trying to figure that out when we thought it was going to
Yeah.
on Friday.
Yeah. This works
We
out
were
a little
all
bit better.
We were all like hitting that refresh button constantly.
Yeah, I was like, come on, you assholes. Can you announce this so I can drop this? I have the meme like all ready to go. And it's like, I just need the screenshot of them announcing them going up to C so I can drop it in there and I can post it and just like go enjoy my weekend. But instead it's like it's 4 Central Time. I think they're skipping it until next week. And it's like
yeah.
Yep. Office is closed. No more work.
That was a good meme that you posted for Walking 90, though. That was good.
Oh yeah, I had some help from Rich and Brian on that one. That got vetted in the group chat real quick.
Yeah. So everybody that is watching on the live stream or listening, so we did delay just a little bit because we do have Tyler that's going to be joining the show. We wanted to give him a little bit of time to, help with the kids to bed and all that kind of stuff. He said he's going to be a little bit late, so we decided to give him a little bit of a cushion to work with. So as soon as he joins, we'll get him into the stream and get him chatting about this topic too. But guys, big news broke this morning. North Carolina FC is going to be going back up to USL Championship.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your initial reaction to seeing the news?
Well, I mean, this has kind of been rumored for a little bit. This isn't obviously the first time anybody that's really plugged into the league has heard this coming. So I wasn't shocked by it. I'm shocked that it is happening so quickly. I mean, as far as leaving League One to go play in Championship next season, that seems a little bit fast, in my opinion. But then again, they have done quite a bit recently to kind of bolster the academy system, like we talked with John Bradford about and everything like that. So, I mean, it's not super crazy to think, but I just thought the timeline was rather strange.
Mm-hmm. I think it's crazy because if you had told me in December of 2022 that a team from USL 1 was going to go up to Championship, I would not have guessed NCFC, or Charlotte, or Richmond. I would have thought it'd been like a Greenville or an Omaha announcing with the new stadium. Would have been who my money would have been on.
I would have said Greenville. I mean, if gun to my head, I would have said definitely Greenville.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it's weird.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting too, because at least my thinking was, if they've already said Championship doesn't work for us, it doesn't work for our market, we're going to move down to League One. It's crazy that they're going up, and it's not like it's been a decade or something. It's been like 2.5 seasons.
Yeah.
And they're like, and this has been in the works for months now. So really it was like 2 seasons. Let's get our ducks in the line and then let's announce.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even like weirder than that, because it's like we had we won the Wooden Spoon back-to-back years, and you know what? We're the worst pro team in the USL pyramid. We're going to Championship, baby. Let's go. Like that is some bold thinking. Obviously, they've been a lot better this year.
Mm-hmm.
Arguably the best team in the league, especially with how Noco's been doing. But it's like, man, guys are doing the damn thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, currently in first place. They were able to bring in some quality players in the off season. They bolstered their academy, like Brian said. So they are certainly moving in the right direction. And Brian, you also mentioned that interview that we had with John Bradford just several weeks ago. And we can throw some audio sound bites into the podcast when we release that tomorrow. But in that interview, he seemed to John Bradford seemed to allude to the health of the club, both with the strong academy numbers as well as their performance on the field. So, if you were to pick here and now, if you were to pick a USL League One team that would be most ready to go to the championship, would you still opt for that Greenville? Would you still opt for that Union Omaha, or would you find more favor in choosing North Carolina?
That's a tough question. I mean, if you go, you have to look at everything as a whole, and obviously, North Carolina's academy is light years ahead of the majority of the league. That's been a big thing for them. They have their own stadium. That's another huge thing. Um, and right now they have players on their entire roster is full of players that can compete at the championship level. And I don't know that top to bottom, these other teams like an Omaha or a Greenville, obviously they don't have the academy system. They don't have a permanent home, and I don't think top to bottom each of those teams have USL championship caliber players at every position. They do have them in some positions, might even say the majority of positions, but there are a few pieces missing. But that's also something that you can take care of early on in the season too. It's not like it's a make or break thing, and we don't actually even know if any of the players that are on the current roster are going to be going with the team either. That's something that hasn't been released either. So I think for all the other intangible things, I think NCFC is really the only one that makes a whole lot of sense for that move right now.
Chip, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. I think if you think of all the hurdles that teams have, like Brian said, they have an academy, which is a great way to source local talent, especially if you're looking to sell, which we've seen other teams in the league like Louisville and OC, who also have academies, have been able to do. They have their own stadium that they own. So you're not getting into like an OC situation where it can get moved from underneath you, or you're playing in a baseball field, or you're playing somewhere else. They have a stadium. It's shared with an NWSL team. They have the academy. It's in one of the hottest areas in the country for youth soccer. It's like on paper, it makes a lot of sense. And I think especially with how they've done on the field this year, it makes a lot more sense because like I was saying earlier, back-to-back wooden spoons, they announced at the end of last year that they're going up. It'd been like, well, you stink though. But
right.
I think Bradford's a good coach. They've got a lot of academy kids that are coming up, a lot of kids that apparently are potentially making moves to Europe when they get old enough. So it's like, yeah, I mean, I think they're trending up. It is a bit weird. We'll get to that to a second about like what this means for USL One, but I mean, good on them, especially if they win the league this year. Like, I don't really think anybody can say much. It'd be hilarious for me as an Omaha fan if they completely flamed out of the playoffs and then went up anyways. That'd be kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it makes sense on paper, and unfortunately in US soccer, probably the biggest thing that qualifies you for a higher level of play is how rich your sugar daddy is, and their sugar daddy's rich enough to buy them a brand new stadium and a brand new academy. So there they are going up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you guys talked about them bolstering their academy with recent signings, and I think the moment when I really thought that this club was destined for greater things, with each of the signings they were making, it seemed as if there was a greater commitment to their academy. I mean, even more so than they already are committed. But when they were able to sign Kyram Lumsden, he's the 16-year-old who comes from the US Youth National Team. As soon as they signed him, that's when I thought, okay, there's no way they're going to be staying League One, because if they bring in a talented US Youth National Team player and they want to develop them into a professional, they cannot stay in League One. They have to go to Championship. Do you guys agree with that kind of assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you have kids that you know are going to be moving up, whether it's to MLS or Europe or Mexico or wherever else, being in a higher league probably means you can charge a higher premium for those kids, and it makes it easier to sell because it's not like, well, they're in third tier American. It's like, well, they're second tier American on a good team. So I think if you think you're going to cash out with some of these kids, it's probably definitely the way to go. Go up, and you know what? They can always go back down, I guess, right? Didn't stop them last time.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Also, I feel like there had to have been something like in their initial contract agreement to drop down to go back up without having to pay the fee to get in. It doesn't seem like they're paying the fee because it says that they activated a clause to jump back up. So to me, that would seem like either they're not paying the full amount to come back to championship, or they're paying a lessened amount to come back up to championship.
Yeah, and I would assume that they had, when they went down, probably because the league needed teams, and they probably said, if you don't let us go down, we're going to fold. And so they had some stuff pre-negotiated to make a move, which I think the necessity of their move outside of like a pocketbook situation, I know is definitely some tinfoil I'm seeing, but we can talk about that in a second. But yeah, I mean, it seems like they're not paying the full. Are we up to $10 million for USLC now, or is it higher than that? I think it's higher than that.
I thought it was higher than I thought it was like
Yeah, I thought
20
20.
million. Yeah, I think 20 million.
Right. So how big of a discount off that they got, I don't know, but they definitely, it sounds like they definitely got some sort of discount. So worth it to them to move back up.
And I saw on Twitter today from their GM, I can look up her name really quick. But she said that the club is actually in a very healthy state financially speaking, especially since coming out of COVID. So, I mean, that speaks volumes to the discipline and the financial decisions that they've made moving forward. So, with that being said, if they're financially healthy, that means that they have a higher potential of being able to bring in USL Championship caliber players. Brian, you said you didn't think that they were going to be able to, or you were questioning how many of their current players were going to go up to championship with them. Do you think we'll see a lot of, how many of the current players do you think, we could possibly see going up there? Maybe not like a detailed like player by player, but like
no, I'll pull up their roster and do a quick look over it just to give you an idea, I guess,
because I feel like Alex Anderson, that's an easy keep. Rafa Menzigen, that's an easy keep. I have to.
This is live stuff here, folks. So
yeah,
bear with us. No outline this time. Rich did point that out.
We're just kind of freestyling over here, so if we forget something too, sorry, I guess.
Yeah. Well, while I'm looking this up, I know Tim with Ranting Blue Penguin Media has a few questions. His first one being, could we be seeing a C team come down next year? So a team from USL Championship to come down, and I would assume that would be to fill the void of having 13 teams and bring it up to 14 instead of having to play a weird schedule with 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always an opportunity for a team to go down, like a Rio Grande Valley or a Loudoun, like an OKC and
Las
some
Vegas.
sort of configuration. Las Vegas, there's teams that can go down for sure. Will they? I don't know. I think the other interesting deal there is, are we going to have a Knoxville where we get a surprise announcement at the end of the season that someone's starting League One? And with that, look at your Lions Bridges, your Ballard FCs, Fort Wayne's, which I think, again, with all of this, the question is, do you have someone that's rich enough to pass the primary owner liquidity test? And the second question is, do you have a stadium?
Yeah.
That seems to be the biggest hurdle people have, is finding someone who's rich enough to qualify and then finding a place to play, which are both very expensive problems.
Well, Ballard has a lot of momentum right now. They just won the championship. They have great community support. They have great merchandise sales going. So they seem to have all the indicators of a club that could retain that success as they move up to League One.
Yeah, which it's of course unfortunate, because the biggest thing that's going to decide that is if they can find someone with, I think it's $10 million liquid net worth. So it's like,
yeah,
unless you can find someone, it doesn't matter. It's like you're staying down, which, is again the unfortunate kind of thing about U.S. soccer, which, stinks. But, I think definitely helps avoid like a NISA situation where they have all these teams that can't afford to pay their players, are not paying their players, are folding left, right, and center. Like, it's definitely not like the ideal situation, but I suppose it's definitely better than the alternative. But a lot of that too is just because there isn't a path to go up and up and up, which helps with the development and the investment and everything else. Like, it was cheaper for Ryan Reynolds and the Sunny guy to buy Wrexham than it was for them to start a USL One franchise.
Rob
McElhenney.
Yeah, I think they paid €2 million for Wrexham all in,
That's it.
and it's five. Yeah, and it's five. That's with facilities and everything, and it was like, and it's 5 million plus to buy 5 million just for the franchise fee for USL One.
Man.
So all in, you're probably looking at $10 million upfront cash across different all your investors.
It's a lot of money.
And then it was recently announced that JJ Watts and who's that other celebrity that just bought into Birmingham City?
Oh, that other JJ Watt and that other celebrity. You mean 7-time Super Bowl winner Tom Brady?
There we go, Tom Brady. I couldn't remember. Yeah,
that guy.
that guy.
But, and again, like, not to turn this into a pro rel conversation, because I think that's a tired conversation that we could go around in circles for hours for.
Oh, it's coming.
We all agree, but there's a lot of value to buying a championship side, or like the Wrexham people buying a Wrexham and being able to promote it up. Because the second they got that club promoted, the value went way up.
Oh yeah.
If they promoted again, it's going up again.
Yeah. Especially with all the corporate partnerships they've been able to bring in.
Well, the TV show helps quite a bit as well.
Yeah. But that's just the unfortunate thing, is there's nowhere to go. And I think that's always like the catch-22 that you get into when you talk about MLS teams. Like, well, USLC teams don't invest enough in their facilities and players. It's like, well, why would they? They don't get anything for winning the league. Am I going to dump all this money into my team just to not get? And you win. It's like, cool, I can sell some merchandise with the star on top, and now I have to print all new polos and shirts for all my staff and players, and
I can go down to the trophy shop and buy a trophy, like, you know what I mean? Like, and it'll be significantly less than what I would have spent to win one.
Hopefully you can drink out of it.
Yeah.
Look at USL One. But, I think that's really kind of the thing. So I guess let's kind of get into that subject. A lot of people online, I'm sure if you listen to a podcast like this, you already know what MLS Next Pro is, but MLS Next Pro has been aggressively going into markets that could theoretically be USL One markets. So you've got, weirdly, Cleveland, which would be a USLC market, but they count. So Cleveland, High Point, which is Carolina Core FC, Huntsville, Alabama. There's rumors that they might have persuaded the Fort Wayne group to come over. So Rochester was another big one which folded, but you're looking at several markets that are the right size for USL One that ended up going MLS Next Pro. Spokane was in essentially like a bidding war with an MLS Next Pro ownership group and ended up going USL. So how much of this move do you think is to kind of insulate themselves from the soccer wars in the third division right now between MLS Next Pro and USL One?
Yeah. And like you were saying, going into competing markets for League One, they're even rumored, MLS Next Pro is rumored to be in discussions with Chattanooga FC. So they're gonna pick them out of NISA. So that'll be an interesting development too.
Yeah, I agree. So I just kind of finished looking at the roster and what I think, just coming back like 3 questions ago now. But I mean, the vast majority of NCFC's lineup looks like it could be championship ready. If you look at their entire midfield and attacking presence, I don't think any of those guys are going to have trouble playing at the next level. Now their defensive side and maybe goalkeeping, which was my issue with them at the beginning of the season and why I didn't think they were going to play as well as they have been this season. And they've definitely surprised myself and maybe the other one person that thought NCFC wasn't going to do well, because I feel like there's only maybe 1 or 2 of us that didn't think they were going to do well. But also, I mean, again, if you're going to move up to championship, one assumes that you're going to have the money to pay for new players at that point, whether that be you sell off some of your players that you don't think are going to be able to make it in championship to other League One teams, or you just don't pick up options and then you drop that salary and are able to do it, use that towards other players. But I think they're player wise right now, all they really have to do is sign a few players on that back line and then maybe a couple depth players, and I think they'll be middle of the table in championship. Because I mean, we've said it before on the show, and I know I've had conversations with people that the top tier of USL League One is a mid-table championship team for the most part. So I mean, with the lineup they have, they could probably go up and be somewhat competitive. But if they sign a few extra players, I think they definitely could be playing towards that upper middle tier by the end of next year.
Yeah, I don't think that's an unreasonable take. And with their defense, you have standouts like Flores. I would certainly keep him around.
Yeah, Flores Blanco.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even Max Flick, Christian Young.
Yeah, I mean, they have players that can do it. It's just, is that going to be, are they going to run a similar system to League One? I don't watch enough championship to know whether or not what happens in League One translates really well to championship. And if championship plays like how League One does, where it's more about individual matchups and exploiting individual matchups than it is about entire team play. Like I watch the occasional championship match. I don't really have the time covering League One to also watch championship. So,
and we've heard this rumor passing, kind of under the radar for several months now about NC making, this move to championship. When League One Day One was announced and you saw all of those signings that they were able to make, do you think that they were already committed to moving to championship at that point, or were they still finalizing things, still discussing things? Where do you think that the club was sitting on League One Day One, and where do you think that they saw their future at that point?
Chip, I'll let you take that one.
I mean, I think that Bradford has said several times that, despite the performance of the past 2 seasons, they've always been looking to compete. They're trying to bring in good guys. They're trying to get guys minutes that they need. So I think no matter what they're going to do, they were going to be competitive. Like, they're probably going to have to overhaul the roster anyways, and there's probably going to be growing pains. Like, I don't think it's reasonable to expect that you can go directly from League One to championship and win, for instance. So I think they're okay with the growing pains, and it'd be interesting. Like, in their releases, I think they say a lot of the platitudes that you always hear. Oh, it's about the community. Like, our fans deserve this. And it's also like, what fans? Like, what NCFC fans are going? But, I think that'll be an interesting thing to watch is, do they have more attendance after they go up? Did people stop going because of COVID? Did people stop going because of them moving out of League One? I think that's the interesting thing. And I think especially, we're all Omaha fans here. I think Gary's been pretty clear on the fact that with the stadium, he expects Omaha to move up to championship, whether that's through promotion or by direct purchase. But I think if you're an Omaha fan or Greenville fan or Chattanooga fan maybe, and you think that your club has aspirations on going up, this is certainly an interesting case study on, do they have more attendance if they go up? Do they do well right off the bat? What does that look like? Do all their prices go through the roof? Like, I don't know. And I think that's something to watch as they go up, because I think if you're a team like Omaha that might want to do something similar and you see, NCFC's attendance doubled after they moved up. That's interesting. And all of a sudden, the math in the back might make sense to, let's drop some cash and go up. So I think it'll be interesting. I think I kind of answered that in a weird way, but I think they wanted to compete. This has probably been in the works for a long time. There are people smarter than us probably doing a lot of math and a lot of modeling on what the move looks like, what their contract options are. And I think that's the weird thing is if they had an option to exercise, then that's probably a lot easier for them than it is for a different team.
Yeah.
Especially because I don't think you're going to go up without a stadium, which is why all the new teams going to see have also announced a stadium with their announcement on starting play.
Yeah. And I did find that statement from the North Carolina club president, Francie Gotzigan. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. She said, "We've made sweeping upgrades to our front office infrastructure while growing out of the pandemic, and we feel confident we're in a place to compete at this level, both on the field and organizationally. We owe it to our fans and community to deliver the best possible product while ensuring the stability and viability of the club for the future." So, I mean, that's a pretty confident statement as the news comes out that they're moving back up to championship.
Well, and so we were talking about attendance numbers and everything like that, and if it goes up based on if you're in the championship or League One. And from what I saw granted, this is the COVID season, and they played 6 home games without a crowd because of COVID. But in 2020, North Carolina averaged 1,974 fans, whereas this season in League One, NCFC is averaging 1,964 fans. So, I mean, they're averaging right now in League One the same amount of fans that they were in a COVID-stricken year in 2020.
I believe they were doing 4,500 in 2019.
Let's see if I can pull that up real quick.
Someone on the Discord posted that earlier today, and it's in the 4,000 somewhere, which should make
4,118.
Yeah,
in 2019,
which would put them, I think, in 3rd place right now in attendance for League One.
In League One, 4,119 is what I said.
Yeah, I think I'd put them right below Madison and definitely behind Richmond.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Below Madison, and then, way below Richmond. Richmond's sitting at 5,200 people average. Yeah. So, and then also well above Omaha, which is in 3rd right now at 2,686.
So, yeah. And we should also give some background to the people listening and following along on our YouTube. So North Carolina, when they first started for the 2007 season, they did play under the USL umbrella for the 07, 08, and 09 seasons. And then they did switch over to NASL from 2011 all the way to 2017, and then returned to the USL umbrella for 2018 and 19 and 2020 seasons before dropping to League One in 2021. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. Chip, I think you were kind of talking about that. A pretty quick turnaround from dropping after the 2020 season from the championship to League One, and releasing a statement that this was going to be a move that was going to be going for the foreseeable future. And now 3 seasons later, we're seeing them go back up to the championship.
At 2.5.
2.5, yeah.
Yeah, they move quick.
Well, you got to figure this has been going or been in the works for at least 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
No, for sure. And I think it's probably been going a lot longer than anybody else knew. I mean, there's been rumors of it for a few months now, so it's not anything super crazy. But I guess ultimately on that, I mean, I think we have talked about that quite a bit. So what does it mean for League One that a team that just relegated is going back up? Like, how do you feel as USL One fans? Like, obviously great for NCFC, but how do you as a League One fan feel about everything?
I mean,
Brian, you want to take that?
yeah, sure. I personally, I'm not a big fan of it. I don't want to see teams leave League One. I know last year with FC Tucson self relegating, that hurt, and not only because they were a welcome mat of the league, but um, because that means it's one less team in the league. And honestly, when your league is bleeding teams either down or up, it's not a good look for the league in general. You want to have a consistent core of teams. And granted, I understand it's third division soccer. It's not MLS, moving on to different things and stuff like that. But at the same time, you can't get to that level and you can't have that level of consistency when you're losing teams left and right. Granted, obviously, yes, everybody in League One is happy that NCFC is in a position to give their fans Division Two soccer and be able to move back up to where they were before. But it sucks as a League One fan, and it screws with the league a little bit too. And I'm sure it wasn't a surprise to the league that they were going to move up. I think they've probably been communicating to them, but it also throws off scheduling. It throws off. I mean, I know I saw quite a bit of commentary on Twitter about people having their away days be a little bit further away now. And I mean, us here in the Midwest, our closest team is 6 hours away. So I don't think any of us really want to hear too much about how far away your away day is. But there's stuff
Especially
like that. Yeah. And yeah, you guys have like 4 or 5 down there that you can travel to by car, and it's a day trip. Whereas here it's a day trip if you're brave enough. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it sucks. And I just feel like as optics on the league, it's just not great. And then having one less team, I mean, that's funky scheduling that they're going to have to deal with now too. Having 13 teams next season, hopefully 13 teams next season, we might even be back down to 12. We don't even really know right now.
Yeah, and I think that's the interesting thing too. So the league launched in 2019 with 10 teams. Going into season 5 next year, right?
Yes.
If everybody joins who's supposed to join, no one else folds, and there's no surprise announcements of teams coming up or down, that means that they've added 3 teams in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So less than 1 team a year.
Mm-hmm.
And think of how many teams we were promised, well, maybe not promised, but hyped up in previous announcements from USL headquarters.
Mm-hmm. We've had more fan announcements on League One teams than we've had actual teams. So, I mean, Fort Wayne was on the website forever as coming this year.
Yeah.
Vermont, Vermont's selling merch that gets linked by the USL ones, or not Vermont, Maine, sorry. Selling merch linked on the store, New Hampshire, Wilmington, there's been a lot of USL to Northwest Arkansas went C. Des Moines, who's half the size of Omaha, going C.
Yep.
Canton, Akron, which is such a backwaters, podunk, Mayberry of a town that when I visited and my flight got in at 10 at night, I could not get an Uber, is going USLC. And it's man, you just look around. Rhode Island, also small. And it's like, why are all these teams going C when there's nobody in one? And again, the answer is money.
Mm-hmm.
Because as ownership, they must look and say, well, we're better off paying 4 times the expansion fee to go C, be guaranteed at least a few seasons of second division football, than going League One, which may be more appropriate, and just hoping for Pro Rel. And I think that's the interesting thing, because if you're thinking, oh, well, Pro Rel, we'll just spend our way up. It's $20 million for a USLC team. It's $5 million for a USL One team. we're going to spend $7.5 million on roster, and we'll just like look at, man, what a discount, just crazy discount. But it is interesting because I think right now, if all the teams that have been announced for USL C come to fruition, as well as some like heavily rumored ones, we're up to 36 teams in USL C. In order to, how many in USL 1? And these are teams that are like formally announced, like we're coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And USL 1, we have no teams announced for 14 or for 15.
Yeah.
No teams announced for 16. No teams announced for 17. I don't think they've said anything about Vermont in over a year. I haven't said anything about New Hampshire in like a year and a half, 2 years.
Portland was even selling merchandise.
Portland was even selling merchandise. Fort Wayne just disappeared off the website. I mean,
Yep.
Santa Barbara hasn't used social media since January. So, are they coming? Answer is yes. Santa Barbara.
They are definitely, yeah.
They're coming. They're just not talking about it, but they're coming. But, I think as a League One fan, it's easy to be cynical about this, especially due to how North Carolina's been on the field the past 2 years. But it's also like, man, like I wouldn't mind so much, if they're announcing, I don't know, Wichita, Sioux Falls, Rochester, Minnesota, like, I don't know, other teams. I mean, heck, put some more teams in North Carolina. I don't care, but it's like, man, like they can't sell a USL 1 franchise to save their life, it seems.
Yeah. Well, what was USL Brooklyn? Is that also a championship, or was that coming?
That's
League One.
That's
One.
League One in 25, isn't it?
Did they give a date, or is it another one of those like, well, we're strongly, because they did that with the Harlem FC too.
Let me check real quick.
Yeah, because I remember Brooklyn was a big deal, and then I haven't heard anything other than the announcement. Obviously, I can't even remember which pyramid they're going in, but
they're set to begin in 25.
Yeah, and they've 25. They've got some money there too, because I believe that guy who bought or was starting them owns a Serie B team. So he'll probably get that done. I mean, I think just in New York, like look at the NYCFC and Red Bull situation. I think it's just really hard to get a stadium in the city, especially anything.
Where are you going to put one?
And it's like, in order to recoup your investment's got to be probably pretty pricey, which I'm not an expert, but I imagine Brooklyn's pretty big. I would imagine you could put it somewhere. Maybe not in like
rooftop stadium, baby.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, it's probably not going anywhere like super desirable, but I'm sure they can find somewhere in Brooklyn to put it.
Yeah.
The ownership group for Brooklyn owns a B and D team in the Italian pyramid.
Oh, 2 teams.
Yeah.
I was like B and D, 2 different teams.
That's cool.
So just getting caught up. I know, Tim, you asked this question a while ago, but didn't want to jump in until now. But Tim Ranting, Blue Penguin Media also asks, do you think if NCFC is successful on the return, it could alleviate some of the concerns about relegation for other teams? Speaking specifically about the pro-rel situation. And his thought being that a team can economically survive relegation.
I mean, we've had 3 so far.
Yeah,
Tucson's still kicking.
I
don't know. I think the problem with the relegation comments is always like, can they survive? And it's like, well, there's not these giant cash payouts. Like there is no, like I think they lose. Last I heard, the teams lose money by having the games broadcast. There is no TV money. Like I think they split $1 million across every team in USL, but then they still have to pay like $5,000 to $10,000 a game to like stream it. So it's like if you do some quick math, it's like, oh, so there's no money in the coffers. It's like, nope, it's essentially like free programming for ESPN.
Yeah.
Which is fine because I think it's on a widely available platform. And it's subsidized to a degree. And, as a fan, it's great being able to watch every single game unless you play Fuego. But if there's not some huge financial payout hit that you get from going down, I mean, I think again, it's optics of your fans maybe don't want to support a third division team versus second division team. But I think I'd ask that question too of if you went around most League One stadiums, and let's just pretend that, Omaha gets promoted next year. And how many people would know that they got promoted and like who those teams were? Or do you think you'd hear a lot of like, well, I'm real excited for the Madison game. And it's like, well, we're not going to play them. Well, why not? We went up. Oh, well, I like playing Madison. It's like, well, we don't play them anymore. Like,
Right.
I do think I do wonder. And I mean, I guess we'll see firsthand, like if NCFC really bounces back next year or what. But I think most fans probably have no idea if they get promoted or relegated. I think it's a player thing because your player pool changes.
Yeah.
I think it's optics thing. You might have some front office people leave because they want to work for a USLC team. Maybe it's a sponsorship thing if you're savvy enough of an organization to put in clauses for that. But I would assume most organizations probably don't have a clause saying if we go down, like you get to cut your payment. I'm sure like Omaha has clauses saying if we go up, you can increase our payment just on the off chance that it happens. But
Right.
I really don't think it's that big of a hit. Like if an MLS team went down, yes. But if USL to USL 1, no. And I think of all the teams that have gone down, the 3 that have gone down, they're better off now than they were when they dropped.
Yeah, I mean it, and we're not talking about European Premier League dropping down to Championship where there's that much money being spent. The difference is insane between a Championship team and a Premier League team. Like it's just it just isn't there, like you said, Chip. So I don't think it's any different for a team to drop down from Championship to League One than it would be for a League One team to go up. And it just is, unfortunately, it's lower division soccer in the United States. It's ever changing, and exactly like you said, I think of the 4,000 fans that were at the Union Omaha match on Saturday, there was, I'd say on 1,000, 1,500 people that know the leagues well enough to know what all the teams are that are in it and aren't just there for a certain specific night. Or I know we got a big boost from all the kids teams that were out there, and the kids teams that walked out with the team and stuff like that. So I don't think there's going to be a huge difference no matter what you do. The only way there's going to be a huge difference is if for some reason at some point there's a Division I status and MLS decides that they want to open that system up, which is never going to happen. So it's really not a point that even needs to be touched on.
Well, here's another possibility worth discussing. In a recent email sent by Spokane Velocity, which I'm still trying to catch on to that.
It's a USFL team, right?
Yeah, exactly. They opened up the possibility to having a championship 1, 2, and then both divisions of women's soccer. They opened up the possibility of having teams in each of those divisions. Now, we know that from the interview with John Bradford that we had several weeks ago, that North Carolina has over 16,000 in their youth academy. Do you think it's possible that North Carolina would still open up a League One team, even with the possibility of Pro Rel happening in the near future?
I don't think if Pro Rel is actually on the table that they would do that. I don't know that financially you can swing having that many teams. It just seems like unless your ownership group is hell bent on spending all of their money on soccer in the United States, I don't see how you can do that, because I would assume the majority of teams in League One are either in the red or close to it. I don't think a whole lot of teams operate on a surplus of money every single year. So, and I can imagine that championship isn't that much farther off than League One in that aspect. So I don't think you can do that as unless your ownership group really wants to not throw away money, but throw away money in multiple different divisions. I don't really see the point in having more than one team at each level.
Yeah.
Unless you're just using it as like a feeder, like MLS does, MLS Next Pro, and it's all of your academy players. Like your League One side would be your under 18s or your under 20s, and that's the team that you field, and that's your academy team. I don't see a point in trying to field two fully professional teams that aren't part of your academy system.
Yeah. I guess it was just wishful thinking that we would still have some semblance of a North Carolina entity still in League One. But yeah, I agree with you, Brian.
I would love to see it, and even if they wanted to just make it their under 20s or their whatever's their junior team, that's still a team in the league. That's still a team you have to play, and that's still growing the game and making players better. Because even if it is an under 18 or an under 20 team, and they are getting this professional experience against guys that have been in the league forever, or guys like Connor Doyle who've played in the MLS, or anybody else that has MLS experience or stuff like that, it's only going to make it better overall. But then again, do you have the money to support doing that? And I just don't think right now that the USL is lucrative enough to be able to do something like that.
Yeah.
Would love to see it, but I don't think it's viable.
And I wonder if ProRel does get instituted, if one of the stipulations from US Soccer is that you cannot have multiple teams under one umbrella competing in a ProRel situation.
Yeah, that does bring up a really weird set of questions. Like, if your championship side gets relegated, but your League One side gets promoted, do you just stay in those divisions? And do you have to send the team up and send the team down? Like, what do you do? Yeah.
What happens in the Bundesliga with the two teams, like Bayern's two-team they won the division, but they couldn't go up because they were in second. And then there's been teams in the third division go down because their pro side or the top tier goes down, and there has to be 2 leagues of separation. So it's
oh man,
kind of funny. But it's like I think we do have a case of that though, right? Like we have Madison and Milwaukee.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where apparently there's a big enough difference in the ownership group that they can still play in the Open Cup. Madison can, but hypothetically, if we had ProRel and Milwaukee went down, would Madison? What would they do? Like
automatically promote?
Probably nothing. Probably nothing is the real answer. They wouldn't do anything, but I think that gives you a bunch of weird questions of like, well, what's stopping them from signing a sweetheart deal with the other team to get them back up, or like, whatever else. I think it just becomes a slippery slope, and I think the league's had enough of 2 teams that you're probably not going to see that. And so, yeah, I don't think there might be a USL 1 team playing at Wake Med, but it would not be affiliated with NCFC. But even that's kind of far-fetched.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
If not, there'll definitely be another USL 1 team in North Carolina someday, because that's the only place we put them is in the Carolinas.
Yeah, that is true. Anything over there.
So I think that Appalachia FC is in they're in North Carolina.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, they're in whatever city Appalachian State's in. Is it Boone, North Carolina?
Yeah, Boone, North Carolina. Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. There's another hot USL 2 team.
For some reason, I thought they were farther north.
Well, I assumed West Virginia, but I know that's incorrect because Appalachia is, Eastern Tennessee, Western Kentucky, or Eastern Kentucky, excuse me, Western North Carolina, like parts of Virginia.
Appalachia goes all the way up north.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say like I don't think people in New Hampshire are like, I'm Appalachian. It's like, no, you're not.
No, yeah, it's more of a southern thing.
Yeah.
When I lived in Virginia, there was a clear line of people where you could tell. So there was when people said Appalachia, it was like those people were considered like um I, the Unionists, and the people that were below the Mason-Dixie line said Appalachia. And so there was this clear line in Virginia where you would hear Appalachia versus Appalachia. It was really interesting. I thought that was awesome.
Wow.
It was hilarious.
Hmm.
You could immediately tell which side of the state somebody was from just by hearing that single word.
I believe it. I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. It's definitely something I think we really need. We really need some more teams to get involved with League One, because I don't think 13 just scheduling wise, I don't know how they're gonna make that one work. But also, I really feel like that if the league wants to be taken as serious as they probably want to be, they're gonna have to either A, add a lot more teams, or B, they're gonna have to somehow get promotion and relegation to pass. Which, I mean, that's a whole nother can of worms, I guess. So that could be a whole nother emergency podcast, is the pro rel situation. We could probably go into that in, what is it, the winter meetings, and they said that's the final time it's going to get pushed back, but who knows? We'll see how it goes.
Real quick.
Sure. Yeah, we got time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, I don't think that's a real quick conversation, but we can have that conversation. Like I said, I don't have anything else to do tonight, so
I think a lot of people didn't, read the article, but it wasn't a vote on pro rel. It was a vote on discussing pro rel.
Right.
So it was like, this is a non-binding vote. We're not agreeing to anything. We're just saying we as a league will go down the path of studying the viability and discussing promotion and relegation inside of our pyramid. Mm-hmm. Probably in a structure that looks like a 3-tier system.
Right.
Not, we're going to have a vote on pro rel and we're doing it. Not, we already have the framework and we're just doing a vote to get it past the line. It was, we are voting on whether or not we should talk about voting.
Right. It was a vote to find out if they're going to spend the money to do the research on it to see if it's viable. It was never going to be, okay, we're going to vote on it and next year we're going to institute it. I honestly think at this point, with it being pushed back to winter for even opening discussions on it, I think you would be lucky to see it fully implemented by 26 at this point.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think the thing too is, it was never going to be like, I always thought it was kind of funny when people were like, oh, well, it'll be like 3 up, 3 down, or like 2 teams up in a playoff. It's like, no, there's 12 teams in League One. Like, no, it's one team maybe.
The
team that wins.
Yeah, and that team will probably have to have a stadium. They'll probably have to meet the Division II sanctioning requirements. They'll have to, do all this other stuff in order to go down. And it's probably like not automatic either, probably like a playoff.
Mm-hmm.
So it is interesting that it's essentially, but I think that's why it's even more important that there needs to be more focus on building up League One. I would say as a League One fan, man, I'm really hoping that there's some announcements after this summer meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this was the announcement that we were teasing on Friday, and obviously it's not awesome for League One.
Right.
I guess it's cool in the fact that NCFC gets to be the guinea pig, but I don't know if I'm hypothetically, right? Let's say NCFC goes up and absolutely kills it. There's 6,000 people a game. They're selling merch like crazy. If I'm the league, like, I'm probably not going to let like Omaha do that, even with the stadium. Right. I'm probably not going to let It's like, no, I need teams in League One. Like you can't go up. So I think that's really the big things. We need more League One teams, and hopefully we get a few more announced. Hopefully no one goes down. Hopefully Tucson can come back up in the next couple of years. But it's like, man, we just need some more League One teams in the hopper, because right now it's not looking so rosy.
Right.
For any fans that are hoping for FC Tucson to return to League One next season, I will tell you here and now, all signs do not point to that happening, but there is very high confidence that they will be returning in the next couple years. So do not get your hopes up on Tucson returning next season. But yeah, we are certainly hoping for some announcements happening after. I think the meetings are next week? Yeah, next week.
They're
This week.
starting tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow. Oh, crap.
So this is, which there, I don't think there's traditionally been a big announcement at the summer meeting. It's always like afterwards, because I think they probably vote on like franchises or something. I would assume like that's not something they do over a phone call.
Right. And I mean, that's something too that me and Rich were, when we were exploring the opportunity of going out there and doing that, which unfortunately we're not going to be able to, but that's definitely something that the league was very not forthcoming with any information of what actually goes on in those meetings. They're just like, I mean, it was more along the lines of, well, what do you guys want to be there for, and stuff like that, as opposed to, well, this is what we're doing and you can be here, here, and here, and that's it. I think they're pretty, and I mean, I'm sure they're probably not used to getting a whole lot of press coverage about their meetings, but at the same time, it is one of those things that if you look at all of the premier leagues across the entire world, you have coverage of all of these even lower division leagues. So, I mean, it is something that I think the league needs to adopt, is getting a little bit more forthcoming with some of the information that goes on. Even if it's not anything, it doesn't even have to be anything crazy. It could just be like, well, our summer meetings are usually X, Y, and Z. And then there you go. But like right now, trying to find information is like pulling teeth, really.
Yeah. Well, you can go and look up their schedule online. They have the schedule posted online, and you can find out what bar they're at in Colorado Springs tomorrow night for the opener. Like,
yeah,
it's all out there, but nothing is like particularly telling. It's not like voting on membership of Ballard FC and Lions Bridge FC. It's like
Exactly. Yeah.
USL One governor, and they're not going to publish like stuff like that. So I'm sure there's like, and the owners are probably at different meetings than the rank and file, who are at different meetings than the GMs. Like, there's all sorts of other stuff going down there. I've been to the hotel. The hotel they're having it at is one that my family goes to frequently, and it's giant. Like, there's conference rooms all over the place. Like, they're having meetings all over that place, because that's how those things work. Like, the meetings that they publish are not like the actual meetings, probably.
Right.
Yeah. And when we were reaching out to try to, plan out that trip, it was right around the exact time that the news broke about the promotion relegation vote happening out there. So I think they were a lot more strict about providing access to, people from the outside, because of the fact that that vote was going to be happening and it's such big news. So I don't. What's up, Chip?
I was gonna say, even then, that would be like a closed session. They wouldn't like let you in there. That being said, after a couple cocktails, who knows what someone says.
Right.
Yeah. And we did hear from several sources that there would be plenty of opportunities to have interviews with people, in the evenings once the meetings are done. But it's the, gaining access while the meetings are happening, and talking to people in that time, and having the press pass to cover that event as it's happening. That was going to be a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, we got a lot of, well, you can't be in the meetings, but I hear a lot of people meet at this place afterwards. It's like, okay, well, Yeah, but that's not really what we're looking for. We're kind of looking to actually cover what's going on in the meetings, but at the same time, we're also just two random guys that do a show out of Omaha, Nebraska. So,
Well, the reality of it, probably so much of it is like probably not that generally interesting.
but I
It's
mean,
probably
the kind of people that listen to podcasts about League One would be interested in the kind of things that are going on in a meeting like that. Because I would venture to say that most of the people that listen to League One podcasts are not casual fans that wouldn't know the difference if we were playing in League One or if we were playing in Championship. I think.
oh
Yeah.
But even then, it's probably stuff like, how much of my meals allocation for players do we get to count as salary for their union contract stuff?
Yeah, it's probably true.
A lot of it is, but again, point being is it's interesting. Like I think that business side of it's super interesting, and I don't know. Again, I would assume if they're voting on new members, they would be doing it at this meeting, and so hopefully something comes out of it. Hopefully there's some teams in the hopper, and
hopefully some Midwest teams.
Hopefully some teams in the Midwest. Like hell, I'll even take a team in Ohio at this point. Like, give me something.
Yeah. And Tim over at Renting Blue Penguin Media coming in saying, Rich playing the honey pot to get info at league meetings. You know what, Tim? I've been working on my glutes, so I could get some work done there.
Tim also pointing out that playing in Tucson this year might have been literal hell.
Yes.
Oh
yeah. You know what though? I mean, Tucson is always going to have a soft spot in my heart. That is, Chip's got Tormenta as his second team, and I've got Tucson as my second team.
Yep.
Rich has not given up who his second team is yet, so.
Yeah, I'm still a free agent, so if any of the clubs out there
want to sweeten the pot. See, you're smart, man. You're smart.
Yeah.
And Tim saying we've noticed. Yes. I don't know if that's directed at me or Chip, but either way, I think it's fair.
Are Rich talking about his glutes? Could be either
or Rich talking about his glutes, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair. All three good fair points. Oh, man. Well, yeah, North Carolina going up.
Yep.
It is what it is. I mean, there's obviously nothing that any of us can do about it. Would like to see a nice round number for the league next year, but we'll have to play it by ear and find out.
Yep. We have any other talking points you guys want to explore?
Did you guys know that Huntsville FC, the affiliate of Nashville and MLS Next Pro, averages like 4,500 to 5,000 some fans a game?
Oh, I did not know that. Jeez.
Do they top the league by like 4,500?
I think so, yes. I don't think anybody else has any fans, but I was looking on FOTMOP to see if they had anything, and they didn't, so I went to their actual website and was like scrolling through. I don't know how real that number is, like if that's distributed or whatever, but I just thought that was interesting.
I mean, it's fair if you think about it, because like aren't all of the other MLS Next Pro teams playing inside or close to the stadiums for their affiliate clubs?
I think most are close to.
So I mean, what is the point then? Like, let's say I'm a Sporting Kansas City fan. Is there any reason for me to go see Sporting 2 if I already have season tickets to Sporting KC?
Because you're a sicko who wants to see the kids play.
Yeah.
I have two children, so my time would be very limited. That might be games that I take my kids to on nights that my wife isn't around and I just want to go do something. But like, if I'm a single 20-something in Kansas City, I don't think that I'm going to spend the money for SKC2 tickets as opposed to the first team.
Yeah, go watch Current play.
Or you got to split time between SKC and the Current. especially with their new stadium being built, like
Yeah.
almost like done by now, I'm sure, since the last time I was there. And Tim ranting Blue Penguin saying, because next pro tickets are still affordable, hashtag Messi effect.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to be using my ticket status of buying multiple tickets to SKC next year when Inter Miami makes the trek to Kansas City to
I'm
see
sure they will
Messi play.
laugh at you and say that's too bad.
And you know what? I'll still end up paying whatever it costs to go. So
Yeah.
between seeing Messi play and the World Cup, I'm going to be tapped out in my my soccer allowance for about the next 10 years, I'm sure.
I mean, selling those Messi tickets, that'll pay off, what, 2 years of your mortgage right there.
Probably would, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just buy season tickets. Sell the Messi tickets.
And it would, yeah, it would. It would pay for
Yeah.
Messi's tickets, but then I wouldn't be able to see Messi play either.
Get 4, sell 2.
There you go. I like the way you think.
Yep. Then you could throw a whole lot more money at the minority ownership of FC Tucson.
There you go.
I'm still looking at that. I still have it pulled up. I'm actually going to look at that as soon as we get done here. I'm just going to look into it a little bit more because I would love to call myself an owner of FC Tucson.
So
owner.
for anybody who out there who doesn't know, before we started the show tonight, Brian was actually on FC Tucson's website looking at how to become an owner on their website and looking at all the different steps to the application process. And it's certainly a lengthy one, that's for sure.
It's a lot, but I'm on the page where I have to figure out exactly how much I want to spend to get the amount of shares that I want. So
There's a blood sample involved. Yeah,
it's already sent in, and it's saliva too. But yeah,
saliva.
tell you what though, if they ask for a stool sample, I'm out at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean that's a whole separate income stream for you, so you don't want to take away that supply. There's
Right.
plenty of demand for that.
Sure.
I don't know why we're talking about.
We've moved into weird territory on a night that started off talking about NCFC going up to championship.
Guys, I'm
Hey, it's
five
not my
beers
fault
in,
this time.
so
Oh man. And Soup Loops in the chat saying all Tormenta games are included in their season pass.
there you go.
So Soup, is that all Tormenta including academy games, women's team games, everything like that, or is that just the men's sides? Oh, Tim caught you lacking on this one, Rich. You forgot to ask, what is everybody drinking?
I'm going with Miller Lite. Yep, I got the Miller Lite tonight.
Ivy brand drinking water.
I've got my last 2 Irish deaths. I've actually trying to remember where my camera is now since I moved it over. But yeah, I got my last 2 Irish deaths are gone now. So, and then I also have my water bottle with everybody's nice, cool stickers. A little plug for Walk-In 90 there too.
There you go.
The pellets, of course, and then the Dead Union sticker, which is still one of my favorites because of
Such a good one.
the sweet holographic effect on that too.
Yep.
I have a
And
very
Brian-
overwhelming amount of Walk-In 90 stickers on this one. I'm just noticing.
Because they're high
Fanboy.
quality.
Soup Loops letting us know that all the Tormenta games are, yes, even the USL 2 when they had one, and the W League as well.
Oh wow!
So you can get
That's
a season
huge
pass for
deal.
Tormenta and go see literally every Tormenta team.
That's a huge deal,
That is really cool.
especially with the women's team that they have down there.
Mhm.
Man, that's cool.
The quality team they got down there, yeah.
Yeah. And also before we started recording tonight, we got an update from the front office over at Northern Colorado ahead of our interview with Eamon Zayed on Wednesday. We got an update on a little bit of insight into Eamon's drinking preferences. So I'm actually going to go to what's it called, Brian? The beer, wine, and spirits tomorrow.
Wine, beer, and spirits. Yep.
Wine, beer, and spirits. I'm going to head over to that place tomorrow to pick up some Irish whiskey ahead of that interview.
Nice. I call it Booze R Us for future reference because it's in the old Toys R Us building. So
yeah, I'm just going to do that.
Booze R Us. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
I think copyright reasons they probably couldn't call it that, but they probably should have.
It doesn't exist anymore. I guess someone probably owns the copyright for Toys R Us.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure somebody's holding on to it. Well, you just don't have to turn the R around. Just put the R the correct way, and then it's not the same.
There you go. That's
how copyright laws work, right?
Of course.
Yeah, I mean, let's take the electrician's word on that.
I'll fully admit, I don't know. I was just assuming.
I mean, they can sue you for whatever they want. It just depends on whether it has legs or not.
Yeah. But how much you willing to spend?
All right, guys. Well, if we are out of talking points, let me check over to the live chat. Yep, we still got the soup lip stuff. Tim just chimed in. We'll give you everybody in the live chat just a couple minutes to submit a last second question, and then we'll start dipping out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tim let us know. Toys R Us is still active online. Babies R Us is about to make a comeback. Forget which inside which stores, though.
Nope. No thanks.
Didn't know that. But yeah. It'll be super interesting coming up. I mean, we still got to see what NCFC is going to do in the league this year. Obviously, they have a great opportunity ahead of them to make some noise. So we'll have to see what they do and how well they finish out the season. It has definitely been crazy this season so far, and it shows that any team that is playing right now can be passed up, or if you're just not hitting your stride at the right time. It seems like Northern Colorado's hit kind of a rough spot, and that's really hurt them. Union Omaha is somehow hitting their stride right now, which may be peaking too early, may not be, who knows. But yeah, there's still half the season left to go, and if the first half of the season was any indication of what we're in for, I think the second half of the season is going to be just as crazy. We're at a third
of the season left.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Getting hot at the right time then, Omaha.
Yeah.
I'll take it. I ain't mad at it.
That I saw a meme. I think it was John Hunt who put it out there on Twitter. The meme about Union Omaha being in third and then Lexington sneaking in at the 6th spot.
Oh.
And those two playing in the first round. Oh, geez. Even thinking about Union Omaha playing Lexington in the first round of the playoffs stresses me out. I just don't want to think about it.
So is Lexington the FC Tucson of this season? Is that what we're going with right now?
I'll officially claim. Yeah, I'll proclaim that. That works.
I mean, but if you look at what happened when Omaha did play them in the playoffs, I mean, it's all right.
Yeah,
I'll take it. Omaha has a knack for beating those teams that surge up the playoff ladder and end up being just fine. 6-1. I think I'd take that again.
All right, looks like no new questions in the chat, so we are going to get out of here. Look, everybody, thank you for joining us on this emergency episode of League One on the Rocks. We certainly enjoyed chatting about North Carolina all this time. That move up to championship is going to be a very interesting storyline to follow in the months to come, especially as we head into League One playoffs with them in first place and everything. So Chip, thank you for joining us. If you are not already listening to Walking 90, make sure to do so. Support Chip over there on those episodes. We've certainly had, Yogi and Kyle and Ebony on the show in the past as well. So go support them as well. They do some great stuff over there. And we want to send a special shout out to Tyler. I'm sorry we couldn't have you on the show tonight. We'll certainly, continue to invite you to future episodes. We understand that parenting sometimes, delays other plans that you may have had. So we understand that. But we still want to send a special shout out to you, Tyler. So thanks for agreeing to come onto the show, even if it didn't happen.
Yep, definitely, it happens. No big deal.
Yeah.
So don't beat yourself up about it. No big deal. We'll catch you on another one.
Yeah. Chip, yours is only a year old, but those days are coming.
I like him going to bed at 6 o'clock right now. It's really great. A lot of time for activities.
Yeah, there you go. It'll switch eventually.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining another episode of League One on the Rocks. We will see you on Wednesday night as we interview Northern Colorado head coach Eamon Zayed. So thank you, everybody.
All right, thanks, guys.
See ya.